So today we're going to cover TRT and my experiences with low testosterone. So back in 2018, I went to the doctors with low test. Asked for a blood test because I was feeling my libido was down, my ability to lose body fat was not where it used to be. Building muscle was getting harder and harder for me. So I decided that I wanted a blood test to see where my test was. And because at the time I was only in about 35, my doctors was reluctant to give me a blood test. She told me, you're too young to have low testosterone, it won't be that. And she was just dismissive. So because I'm quite in tune with my body, I was like, no, look, I want this done because I do feel like I have low test. Had the test done and my testosterone levels were low. So I then got referred on to endocrinology, which was a ball ache within itself anyway. Once I'd been to endocrinology, I got treated like a fucking druggie. Like basically, he turned around to me and said, this isn't going to make you massive. If this isn't steroids, we're only going to give you a gel. I'm not here because I want to get massive. I want to come because my quality of life isn't where it was. And I'm struggling with everyday things. That put a bitter point within my mouth. Like, all right, well, I'm being treated like a fucking idiot. I'm being treated like all I want this for is to get massive because I go to the gym. At this point, I was unaware of PEDs, had no interest in them, had no knowledge of them. And I took the test gel that they gave me, which was pretty shit, to be honest. It was horrible stuff. You rubbed it in your shoulders. If you're up early in the morning, like to go to work, I had to be up 25 minutes earlier just to rub this gel in my shoulders to let it dry in because you couldn't put any clothes on before it was dried. It just didn't, and it didn't really do anything. I didn't feel any benefit of it. Felt a little bit better for a short period. Fast forward to 2023, so about 3 years ago, with my current coach, I said to him, I wanted to have a look at my blood test because I feel like my testosterone levels are low. Now, my reasoning behind this, and it was nothing to do with steroids, wanting to get massive or anything like that. So I was finding that I was sitting on the sofa and I would just drop off sleep. My sex drive was non-existent. The ability to hold an erection just wasn't there. And what the seal of the deal was for me was I'd came in to do a Sunday shift because my son had not turned up for work. I was pretty much sat behind the desk on reception the whole day, didn't really do anything, didn't train, had no reason to be tired. I was just pretty much a lazy day behind a reception sort of thing. Got home from work Sunday afternoon about 3 o'clock. Sat on the sofa, fell asleep for about an hour. Mrs. woke me up to say, dinner's ready. Had dinner. Spent another hour awake. Fell back asleep. To be woke up again to take my son home because he was with me that day. Took him home. Drove back home. Spoke to the missus for about another 40 minutes. Fell back asleep for another hour or so. To then wake up, 20 minutes awake. Said to her, we're going to bed now. She's like, well, you're not going to sleep. You've been asleep all day. I went to bed, slept for 12 hours. Easy. To be honest, probably because I stayed asleep longer. So at that point, I knew there was something wrong. Like, this wasn't normal. And it wasn't a way to live. I'm like, at this point, I was 42 years of age. I'm like, this isn't a way to live. So I spoke to my coach. We got a blood test done. Luckily, these days, like, we can go and get blood tests done a lot easier. So you got eval, you've got manual, you've got Medichecks. So we ordered a Medichecks. I got a full testosterone panel done. Now, this is where I really fucking hate the NHS and the way that they look at the bloods. So the range for testosterone levels is 8 to 28, which is a massive range. And if you fall in between that range, for NHS, you're normal. It doesn't matter whether that's optimal, you're in range. And when you are in range, they won't do anything unless you really push. So mine came back as sitting around about 11, which was low and clearly not optimal for me. I wasn't on my sides, well, not the side effects, the effects of having low testosterone, where I was completely tired, shattered, knackered. Now we got into a conversation with my coach about doing TRT, ordering it through an underground labs, because I didn't want to go back through the doctors. I didn't want to go through the whole endocrinology, being treated like I'm just some sort of bodybuilder that wants to get massive off these things. So I went down the route of going to underground labs, getting my testosterone, getting my pins, and we spoke. My coach and me spoke about it. He gave me his opinions, and I made the ultimate decision that I was going to go on to TRT. Now, TRT, true TRT, is between 60 milligrams and about 150 milligrams a week. Anything above that, you're running a cycle. You're not running TRT, you're running a cycle. And this bullshit of sports TRT of 200 plus, mate, you're on a cycle. Simple as that. TRT is low dose testosterone. The aim is to take you up to the higher end of the range. It's not to take you super physiological. Always start on a lower dose. So we started around 120 milligrams of test, which actually, when 5 weeks after starting the TRT, that put me at 27. I was in the perfect range. It was the perfect amount. I was within range. And the biggest take home for me on this was the things that I started taking for granted. Not waking up with a morning erection. My sex drive being in the basement. All of a sudden, I fucking wanted it all the time. The ability to lose weight became a little bit easier. My body was a lot more responsive to calorie deficit. My energy levels, wow. The thing that I'd taken for granted is how shattered I was always feeling. So these are all the things that I'd started and had taken for granted. Because these things, it's a slow decline of tests. You take it as your norm. You're getting older. This is life. This is me now. And this isn't actually the way it needs to be. And you can I tried all these natural supplements, the Tonka Ali, the Fedosia, all these things that was out, testosterone. I tried all these. And I didn't feel they did anything. To be honest, I thought it was pretty expensive. You're looking at 30 odd quid a month for this. And let's be honest, TRT, test jar on TRT, 35 quid, 40 quid is going to last you a good few months. You're looking at nearly fucking a 6 month, on true TRT on low dose, which is peanuts in comparisons to 30 quid a month on a test booster that personally didn't think did anything for me. So in the end, me going on it was the best thing for me. Like, my performance in the gym, yes, did increase. Take that away from it. I had no interest in going on TRT or going on to testosterone to improve anything in the gym. It wasn't on the cards. For me, it was, I wanted to feel better within my life, my quality of life. That's where everything for me was aiming. Didn't give a shit about being stronger, getting massive. Going on to test was nothing to do with the gym at all for me. As I say, it was my quality of life. And that's when I definitely noticed the things that was taken for granted. So, as I said, energy levels, the ability to hold an erection, waking up with an erection, my sex drive, enjoying sex again. These are all the things that started to come. Wow, I fucking forgot about these. These are things that I hadn't really thought about, because, as I say, this slow decline that came back when I went into a more optimal level of testosterone. Now, there is clients I work with, and there's people that I've spoke to recently and stuff that don't want to inject testosterone. I get it, totally get it. It's not the best thing in the world, and people don't have fears of needles and stuff like that. It doesn't bother me at all, and I totally understand why. I chose one path. I chose to do the underground labs, and obviously there's always a risk with taking testosterone, and that's why I do have regular bloods done, and I can take care of the things that I need to because of taking something that's a endogenous substance to my body. If you're somebody that doesn't want to do that, that is totally fine, and I get it, and I support your choices. Everyone has their own choices, but you do have options. So for me, when I tell to clients about it, you can go to, these days we actually have TRT clinics. This country is a little bit behind. So in America, you can go to a TRT clinic, and they provide TRT to people. Like they recognize it as, it affects people's mental health, and it does. Like in this country, it's like, no, you're in range, you're fine, and they don't look at it any broad. They look at it through a very closed lens, which is we're very behind and backwards with it. We're only just providing females TRT and HRT, like, and for males, it's glazed over massively, and I definitely think we are well behind. But as I say, in this country, we're now starting to see TRT clinics open. We've got Manual that's open, so you can go and get in touch with Manual, and they will help you with your TRT and blood tests and stuff like that. You can go through the route of the NHS and get them to, you have to be pushy with it, but they eventually will start to look at what getting you optimal. Generally, they will provide you with a gel first. Once they've done the gel, I believe there's a tablet, and if the tablet's not one, they then will eventually inject, but it's a monthly injection, and I don't totally agree with it because you're not getting stable testosterone levels. With the way I do, I inject 2 to 3 times a week, so I try and keep the peaks and troughs as small as possible. That then keeps you a balanced testosterone level, so you're not getting high moods, low moods. With NHS, I'm led to believe they inject once, so you get a high peak, and then you're going to get that big valley of where you're coming down. So for a certain period, you're going to feel like fucking Superman, and then all of a sudden you're going to feel like your kryptonite's hit you and you're fucked from there. That's one of the reasons I don't agree with how the NHS run that. Along with their abilities to how they look at low testosterone. I think it's totally outdated and totally bollocks, and they really need to sit down and have a severe look at the way it works. I think a lot of mental health comes from, especially a lot of young men these days, and I'm seeing it more, that they have fucking low testosterone. We're in this real bad situation where men don't hold testosterone that great these days, and the younger and younger generation are becoming low test quite quick. What reason? I'm not 100%. Definitely something to do with food, definitely something to do with the amount that people drink and stuff like that, but that's a different subject. And then you can go down the route of underground labs, where you get from, we'll call them your local drug dealer, you order testosterone, you inject, and you prescribe it and do it within yourself. Like, obviously, I do help my clients, guide them and give them my advice. I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't provide medical advice. I just give you my opinion, and you make your choices from that. And it's not medical advice in any situation, and should never be taken as medical advice. I do help my clients, as I say, with guidance, because a couple of people I've helped before, and it has done them the world of good. And I definitely think if you're somebody suffering, like, it's something you should try and go down. I've had a couple of people I've spoke to before that wanted to do things naturally. Unfortunately, when your test is in the basement, there's not a great deal you can do. You can do PCTs and things like that. Depending on your age and how bad you're in the basement, you're still going to bring it up. And if you need to try and bring it up, it's not always going to work that way. Naturally bring it back. Now, if you're a bigger person and holding a lot more body fat, you're going to aromatize differently. So you're going to have high estrogen that can potentially lower test as you're overweight and then insulin sensitive. But that, again, comes down to a lot more detail and a lot different video going into that. So what I would say is, if you're a male that has been, even females do go have low test, and you can go down the TRT route for females. But if you're a male that's been suffering and you feel that you're low test, get a blood test done. Have a look at what your test is, your free tests and everything else around that, your FSH and LH, and go from there. Then talk to somebody that potentially could give you advice. And the coach, reach out. I'm happy to reach out towards me, and I can give you my advice on it and what I think, and we go from there with it. But don't be somebody that suffers. Like, if you're finding you're low energy and all the things I've described in this video, it ain't normal. And I believe me when I say it was the best decision I made for my life, not just for the gym. Yes, I have gone, since doing TRT, down routes of learning more about steroids. And again, this is a different video, but I've gone down like cycles and things like that because I wanted to learn more. That was me, not necessarily what you need to do. So again, that's a different video of going through different PEDs, but it was definitely, in the terms of TRT and what I run, was the best choice I ever made. If you resonate with this and have any questions, please feel free to ask.